All right. Can I do a quick mic check? Can anybody drop in if they can hear me? Yep. Just a second, and I will share my slides. Got it. Yes. All right, everybody. Welcome to series two of Global Hack Week Security with Python. Yesterday, I took a session on web application security in Python, and we talked about the way we can prevent those. A bit of that extended into here. Also, I've copied the entire slide template. So if you see similar slides, just know that I have literally copied the template. All right. Um, yeah. Meanwhile, where are you all checking in from? I guess it's late in the Eastern time zone there. Yep. Where are you all checking in from? How many of you from Eastern time zone? It's 11 a.m. All right. That's early. Good morning. Okay. So, I think this is probably the. Wait a second. This is the last. Okay, this is the last session for day five. Yep, this is the last session for day five. All right, I think we can begin then. So today we are going to know about databases security with Python. We're mostly looking into how Python, like when we make projects with Python, how do we ensure that our databases are secure and why they need to be secure, one thing. Secondly, how do we prevent, if, you know, or something happens like data breaches or unauthorized access. Let's move forward. All right, so a quick introduction of mine. I am Akshita and I'm an MLH coach here. You might have seen me on a couple of streams before. This Global Hack Week, I've taken like three streams. This is my fourth. Tomorrow will be another one about network security, so do tune in. Then I'm also a pod leader with the fellowship team at MLH, and yeah, the fall applications are open. There's a Web3 special track which will incubate uh, the top projects from the Build Web3 hackathon that's going to happen. So if you're people like, you're interested in Web3, do check it out because that will give you a very good new kind of track in the fellowship. And also the company that's sponsoring it, which is Near Horizon, they're going to incubate the projects as well. So it'll be a really good experience if you're into Web3. Apart from that, I'm also a backend engineer, so I mostly work with databases, and that's how my day job goes. All right, let's move forward. Firstly, why are we talking about database security? Anybody would like to answer? What do you understand from a database, or what kinds of databases have you used before? Have you used databases with Python? If yes, what framework or what kind of database? Give you a few, couple of minutes to type it out. What are some popular databases that you've used in Python? Or if not in Python, in other languages? And if you've not used databases, mention that as well. Okay. Used MongoDB and Firestore with JavaScript. Yes, those are very popular frameworks, and both of these are document based. Document based databases, right? Their structure is documents. Um, okay, people have used MySQL. That's all right. That's mostly the first SQL database all of us use. Then SQL, Perl, and XQuery. Perl is a language. Perl is a database. No, Perl is a language. If I know this. All right, but XQuery is something different. We hear nice. Then Postgres. Yes, I'm extensively using Postgres these days in my day job. Anybody else with any other cool database like Cassandra or Redis or something like that on those lines? Okay, um, I guess not. Let's kind of move into database security. One, why are we kind of taking a session on this? Why is this important? So, mostly all of us make small projects here and there. You might be making projects to submit to the fellowship, and or maybe just adding to your resume or building projects in your hackathons, adding into your portfolios. What happens is we often ignore how we treat our databases in those projects because if you use something like MongoDB or Firebase or like Firestore, what happens is these services are managed by the company itself. So all of these services, you can see in their dashboards, the company in the case of Firestore, Google owns it. In case of MongoDB, MongoDB Atlas has an entire dashboard that kind of filters out or ensures your security and divides your database into various clusters to scale it up automatically. There's a lot of things um, that are abstracted from us. We do not need to know all of those. And yeah, all of these are things are basically done to make our lives easier. But when we come to our local spaces, when we come to our SQL databases, when we come to our NoSQL databases on the machine, or on our servers, which we ourselves manage, which is not given to a third party. Suppose you deploy something on Heroku and you use an in-memory DB. Nobody is managing that for you, right? You are yourself responsible for creating a layer over that database to provide security to that database. So, databases can contain vast amounts of valuable information. Everything today we know is data, and data costs money. Data is the most expensive thing today. So, all of this data can contain personal information, your identifiable numbers, your financial data, your IP data, your trade secrets, your wallet secrets, your crypto. All the databases around the world have vast amount of data, and we need to protect them. We need to make sure they're secure because if that leaks, then you know, like it'll be a huge loss to the person who lost that data. Oh, before moving in, so, what did we cover and why we need database security is one, we could lose sensitive information. Two, we can obviously have financial losses. Then there'll be reputational damage, not only in the case of the company who lost data, but also probably to the person whose data has been stolen, right? Then there can be intellectual property theft. Suppose you are working on a prototype or some research project that you've been working on for a very long time, and somebody accesses your database and steals that data. Your entire intellectual property over that research work just goes away because now somebody else also has access to it, and kind of they can maliciously use that data. Then there can also be some legal or regulatory consequences for companies. So what we'll do today is yeah, before we move in forward, all right. So so the for the people who've used MySQL or JavaScript or JavaScript with Firestore and MongoDB. How do you basically make calls to your database? Like you're writing the code, and in the middle of the code, do you do db.execute or db.run or db.fetch? How do you write your database commands in the middle of the code, just like that? Because that's how I used to do it. If I share my entire screen, just a second. All right. Yeah. Sorry for the infinity mirror. My StreamYard does not check. Okay. So this is my GitHub repo where I've been storing all of the sessions and their files. Yesterday I took one on web app security, and all of the Python files are here along with their descriptions. So there is that. Now today we're working with Flask app again, and we're working with databases. I'm using SQLite 3 over here because you do not need any special things to work with it. Now, let me quickly do a dip freeze. All right, I'll push this code to GitHub, and then you all can. Oops. Okay. Now requirements.txt has everything in it, and what I can do is git add, git commit. All right, let's open GitHub for ourselves, and here is the repo. Yeah, I'll drop in the link of the repo here. You can refer to this while we kind of check it out. All right. So, if you started off like I did start off when I was learning to code Python, what I used to do was, whether it's a Flask app or not, with a simple Python script, single line Python file, what I used to do was I used to define it like this: connect with the database, give it a temporary name, right? And then make cursors, make your queries, and execute them over here, right? In the middle of functions, I'll connect to the database, execute queries, and output my result. This is something that you all do too, because this is how I learned it in the initial days, and I carried this on for a very long time until I learned something which is called, I I I will have a lot of problem presenting my screen if this keeps happening. Okay. Yep. And that is when I realized something, when I came across something called layering your project structure. Now, what does layering project structure mean? Your presentation comes in first, right? So when there's a presentation here, what the user sees is called presentation. That's basically UI, UX, okay? All your widgets there, all your colors and all your designs over there. That goes in presentation. That's what the user needs to see. Okay. Then we have something called the domain, which is basically our backend, something that will help us interact with the data. Okay. And again, backend does not interact directly with data. What we do here is we make sure that there's a data layer also in the middle that can directly access, maybe, organized data, unorganized data, whatever it is. So we create a database layer which interacts directly with data, and our backend interacts with the database layer. So we provide these layer security so that even if somebody breaches here, they have to breach through here. If somebody breaches here, they still have to pass the database layer, right? And to explain this in a much more better context, let's move forward. All right. So we come to authentication and authorization. This is something we talked about yesterday extensively. Okay. Can somebody quickly drop in? What do you understand by authentication and what do you understand by authorization? Both start with auth and both end with ation. I'll wait a couple of minutes for that as well. What do you think is the difference between authentication and authorization? That is something that will prove crucial in our database access. I'll wait a couple of minutes. Go ahead. Even if you don't know the difference, you can type that in. That maybe I'm not sure about it. That'll help me kind of, take the right course for the stream. Nobody? What do you understand by authentication and authorization? Or even if you know the definition of one, that'll work too. All right. Oh, we have one. One verifies you, the other defines you. That's such a nice answer. Such a nice answer. Yes, correct. Yep, that's all right if you don't know. Completely okay. So, like we discussed yesterday, I'll explain it again. So, like Ammo, my no, I cannot pronounce that username. Sorry, can you drop in the pronunciation so I can get it on much more easier? So what happens is when you authenticate somebody, you try to verify if they belong here or not. Okay, if they even have an account with us or not, do they have their entry in the database or not? Right? Okay, so somebody here is from Zambia. They're on YouTube. Hi Jeffrey. So yeah, the authentication is basically, are you valid to access our website, are you valid to access our application, our resource? If yes, we let you in. Do you have the rights? And authorization is basically, once you are inside the gate, do you have access to certain pages, do you have access to certain resources? Okay, like I can log into StreamYard, but do I have the access to edit profiles or delete streams? That defines authorization. Am I authorized as the admin or am I authorized as a normal user? That is the difference between authentication and authorization. authentication gives you Authentication opens the gate for you, authorization assigns you the room. Okay, it assigns what room can you go into, what places you can go to. Okay. And why are these very crucial in database security? One, they help with password storage. So, you know, storing passwords is a must today, and authentication helps with that. Then, multi factor authentication. We know we have two FAs, three FAs, or even TOTP authentications these days. Twitter has recently enforced 2FA authentication. Then also we can restrict access to sensitive data. Like the admin can get access to all data. Then a moderator might get access to a fewer data. Then normal user gets access to only three or four resources. That's how we okay. Anonymous, but M in place of N and N. Oh, you all are keeping cryptic names. That's nice. And am I the only one who doesn't get these cryptic hints? Okay. Now, when it comes to authorization, we have two kind of things. One is role-based access control. So you can define various roles. This is user, this is special customer, this is moderator, this is trader, this is seller, this is customer. Like all of these roles you can define, and based on those roles, you can change the access of what the user can see, cannot see, or can do on the website or your application, right? Then the other kind of authorization is basically um, attribute based access control. So if a user attributes match with something, then you can connect them, right? Then you can connect them to the resource that they want to access. This is basically enforced using, say, JWT tokens or various user IDs or some loyalty points most websites have. Okay, now this was what I was talking about. You might want to take screenshot of this because this is like the fundamental of building a good solid project. So even in the fellowship reviews, when we see most projects that have a structure very similar to this are the ones that are written good quality. Your application consists of your presentation layer, your business layer where your core logic or your backend logic is written. Then there's a data layer. Data layer composes of data access layer, the ORMs or the libraries we use like Postgres, we use PsychoPG. For MongoDB we use PyMongo. For Firebase we use again, I think Python has a Firebase library. So all of those libraries constitute data access layer. They do not give you direct access to data, but they help you access data. And they have direct access to data. So data access layer can access this RDBMS, NoSQL, or any other kind of database present here. But your business layer cannot interact with direct data. Okay, your business layer can only interact with data layer. Similarly, your presentation layer cannot interact with the database layer. Presentation layer has to communicate with business. The business will communicate with the data access layer, and then the data access layer will bring data and give it back to backend, which will in turn give it back to the presentation layer. This is how you need to structure your code. You need to divide out your um, modules in your project, and yeah, let's move forward. Can we? Okay. Yesterday, this both of these terms came in. This was input validation and sanitization. Okay. To the people who came here yesterday, do you remember what input validation or sanitization meant? Or if even if you were not here yesterday, what do you think this kind of might mean? Very simple words. Validation go by the name. Sanitization go by the name. I'll give a couple of minutes to type in if anybody wants to. And we have our SQL queries. Okay, while somebody types in. So now, why do we need input validation and sanitization? Firstly, what is it? Validation, as the name suggests, we are validating our input. You cannot, when I am asking you to enter a number, you should not be able to enter special characters. Okay, or when I'm asking you to enter your email address, then comes in sanitization. The sanitization part will ensure this is a valid email address. Okay, or it will clean up the email address, trim off spaces from the front and the back. So that is sanitization. It cleans up the input that you get. Validation checks whether the input is in the correct format or not. Is it in the expected format or not? Right? Now, all these are important because if these are not implemented, if you are not implementing validation or sanitization in your code, what can happen is somebody can try to run malicious SQL queries in your website, right? Now, what does malicious SQL queries mean? This is basically what we talked about yesterday. That's called SQL injection attack, right? So, SQL injection attacks is instead of your password or your username, what are you typing in? You're typing in an SQL query which will bypass the system, which will give you access to login protected data. Then again, defense against data corruption. Somebody, okay, if you're asking somebody to enter a password, and instead of a password, they kind of entered a huge. They entered the say the SVG text of an image. Okay. Now the entire SVG huge text going into your password inside your database. If you save it like that before sanitizing it, before validating it, what will happen is your data will get corrupt. Probably your table might break, probably your DB might break, and it will be like, I cannot store all this data inside a single cell. You need to do something about it. Then again, cross-site scripting attacks, XSS. If we do not validate or sanitize our input, we can be prone to running endless, harmful commands on our server accidentally because the user simply tried to attack. Then we also have directory traversal attacks, and we'll see in a second what these are. So, if you have played CTFs before, or if you have kind of played some of MLHS challenges. They love going to traverse the robots.txt file. So there's a website, and if you just add slash robots.txt, you can access a text file there, which contains usually flags or security rules or some secrets that the website has. So directory traversal attacks basically means this. Then again, let's see this how it works. I again need to change. This is annoying. This is annoying. Okay, here it is. Fine. If you did go and see this code, you should find a file called app0.py. All right, and let me change my. Oops. Let me change my Python environment. How many of you use package managers with Python? If you use them, just let me know what kind of package managers you use. Poetry, Anaconda, Miniconda, PipEnv, PyEnv. I use a mixture of Miniconda and PyEnv. If you want to learn more about Miniconda, I can drop a link. It's it's basically Anaconda's child and helps you with package management. All right. Now, if we go through this code here, oh, let me install pip inside it. Now we can do a which pip to check. Yes. Okay. Now we'll do a pip install -r requirements.txt, and this should install all our requirements that are mentioned here for running this project. All right, and we'll change our interpreter from here to ghw. Okay, done with this. Now let's try to read the code. Should I zoom in? I guess I should. Okay, sweet. Now, what are we doing here? We are basically creating a simple Flask app, and now we're doing a big mistake over here, which usually mostly beginners do. That is, we set the database as a direct connection. I'm using the built-in SQLite 3. You can use probably Postgres directly over here. But again, Postgres offers you PsychoPG. That's how we use Postgres with Flask. And PsychoPG or the Tortoise ORM or MongoDB, PyMongo. If you use all of those are ORMs. They will not let you execute direct queries like this, direct SQL queries. What they'll instead do is they'll give you ORM wrappers to these queries. So you can usually use something like, suppose you have connection string and you can only do connection dot create, something like this, and you can add in your user and your password. That's how it works. So all of the ORMs that we use, they are suggestive of usage because they kind of do this work for you. They do all the validation for you. They do all the sanitization for you. If you pass something illegal like an SQL injection query over here, your MongoDB, your Tortoise, any ORM that you use will not allow it. Okay. All right. So we connect the SQLite database. We give it a name called temp.db. Let me delete my old database. Okay. Then we add a simple query to create a table. Create table if not exists. Users, ID integer, username text, password text. Now you can, kind of make this as you like. If you all want to run the code while the stream goes, you're free to do so. And if there's any questions, you can drop in the chat. Then we do db.commit, we execute the statement. Again, we create a dummy user which has ID 123 and which is username admin and password. Okay, and we do a db.commit. What happens is when we do this, our Flask app will get initiated and we'll set up a database with an admin password, this thing, right? Now, app.route simply rendering index.html, which looks like this. Nothing too fancy, simple username and password form. I'll run this project and show you right now. Now, we have a route called login, which can only accept post, which can only accept post requests. So if request.method is post, we take out a username and password from the form data and we make a connection to SQLite. I had to make a different connection over here because if you're familiar with SQLite 3 properties, this works in a different thread and this works in a different thread. So if this is working in a different thread, I cannot use to that cursor or that connection over here because the threads are different. And yeah, inter-thread communication is not exactly possible in Python. All right. Now, so what we did until here was we accepted the user's name and password. We connected the database. We initialized a cursor, and then we executed a simple query, which we would anyway execute on the database, which is select all from users, where we find the username and password. And the username and passwords match. If we have a user, return this URL for user. Return this particular route. Okay. Let's run this and see what happens. I do Python app 0.py and it says our server is started. Okay, okay, there's something wrong. What is wrong with this? Can anyone figure out what is the problem here? Why is it not running? Okay, give me a second. I'll clear my cookies and we'll get back on this. Oh my god, my screen is not visible. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I was basically talking to my screen the entire time. Yeah. So let me just quickly do this again. We created a simple Flask app. We defined a database and we created a simple table using SQL queries, which SQLite 3 allows. Okay. And we inserted a user, a test user here. Index.html will take us to this page, which has a simple login form, username and password, right? Then Okay. Then when we go to the login route, what we do is we extract the username and password from the form and we again make a connection and we execute this query, which should ideally check from the database where a username is and where a password is. If they match and if a user exists, what we do is we return to this particular route. Okay. And if everything goes fine, this should have run. Why it does not run, I am not sure. Let me change it back to 5,000. And let's go here. Yeah, works. So this is our index.html with a simple username password value. And suppose admin and our password was password. See, simple. How did it work? We'll see all the routes that got hit. Our index got hit, then login got hit, and then user slash admin, which is expected because this is how we traversed. Went to index, it was rendered. We went to login, okay, we were logged in successfully, and then we went to slash user slash username. In this case, our username is admin. Now, what are the potential problems with this kind of code? This is, clearly, if you look in a database, okay, I initialized it too many times. Yeah, I'll delete it. Delete. Now, okay, still comes in two times. Funny. Anyways, so what is the problem with this kind of thing? Let's see a SQL injection attack. I pasted the query over here. What if I know that, okay, I come across this website, say, okay, and I know there's a username and password that I need to log in with. As a naive person who has never done this, I'll probably try root. If I try to log in, it says invalid username and password, as it should, right? Because there's no root or root in our database right now. Nothing does not match. If I say admin and root, it doesn't log in. If I say admin, some common, nothing. What if I say, okay, I know I need to log into admin, but can I, instead of typing the password, can I type this small thing over here and let's see if I can log in or not. Paste it. What did it just say? Welcome admin. I did not even have to enter the password, right? And we logged into the admin level rights. How did that happen? Because our database clearly does not have any password which says that it looks like this. What happened here was, see, we're taking our username and password here. So here our password must contain this value. All right. And when this happens, in our query over here that we directly executed, let's see how it must have gotten passed. Let's copy the F string only. Okay. All right. So username we passed as admin. Let's put admin here. And for password we passed this string. Let's put this string over here. What do you see if I remove these external things? So basically our database ran this query. Do you understand what this query looks like? This says select all from users where username is admin and password is null. Okay, or 1 equals to 1. What does this evaluate into? This evaluates into true. And anything odd with true gives us true. Alright. So this person, this user got a value true. Okay. If this is true, then we'll return redirect for URL user and we pass our username admin. So this property is this particular login page is prone to SQL injection attacks, right? Now this is one way of injecting SQL queries. Okay, like we are basically corrupting our data over here. Another way why this is very vulnerable is, okay, suppose I don't want to log in. Okay, I do not want to log in. Absolutely not. What I can do is, what if I go to user/admin? What do you think will happen? I did not log in, but it still allowed me to. It still says welcome admin. See, it still hit this route without actually hitting login. However, my flow should have gone like, I should have been redirected to this route from the login page. But that page was never hit, never ever hit. I directly hit this route and I could log in. What if I change admin to, see what happens? Why is this happening? Because first of all, this route/user is open. This is not protected. This does not have authorization here or authentication here. I am not logged in, yet I can access this route, which is kind of dangerous. Definitely dangerous. Okay. All right. Now let's see how do we fix this thing. How do we fix that? If I am not logged in, I don't want my user to kind of come in here. Okay. Now comes the point of decorators. Here is a simple decorator where we can check if the user is logged in or not. And let's import this over here from decorator, import login required. All right. Okay, fine. And since we imported this login required decorator, let's add it to our routes. So I want I want people to be able to access login route. Okay. I don't want somebody to access my user. And we add the decorator login required. Now, what will this help us do? This will ensure that we are logged in. And how do we ensure that? Let's check out what the decorator says. Okay, let's run this app again. No module name databases. Oh my god. Okay, I forgot to create an init file. Please work now. It's not how it works. Import decorator. It's not fixing it. Oh my god. From decorator. Not a good sign, not a good sign. Just work for God's sake. Okay, work. Why is this giving me type hinting over here? Why? Should got me in the first try. Alright, we came to, let's refresh this and make sure it's running. Yeah, our Flask app is running. Now if I want to go to the user route without logging in, I want to become the user and admin. Still allows me. Why? We put our decorator there and it says login required. That means it should have login required. Why did it not implement this? So if you go to our decorator and we check, login required says if username not in session, return F. Now, what is a session? We do not have access to any session variable. We're importing it from Flask. Like yesterday, we talked about sessions. What are sessions? Sessions are um, period of time frame where which kind of tracks the user's activity. It allows you to perform certain tasks, and it stores all your transactions with the application or with the website. That's about it. So in a session, you can, whenever user logs in, you create a session and you put all their information there to quickly access it without asking the user again about it. Okay. So once we do one, we have imported session here. What we do is once we log in, okay, if the user exists, what we do is yeah, session username is equal to username, right? This proves us that okay, this particular user is found and we can log in. We can set the session. Okay. If the user is not found, let's set session to something as decorator checks. Am I doing this correctly? Yes, so if username not in session, you must be logged in to view this page. Can I pause session here? Let's get rid of this one. Okay. And for login required, let's pause session. All right. After setting the database, let's also set our session as session equals to nothing. All right. Now let's try. Login required missing one position argument. But I did pass it. I did pass it. Why is it saying this? I am making a mistake. Let from class import session. Let's try. Okay. Slash user slash admin. Still allow me to check in. Why? Why? Okay. Let's do one thing. If it comes into this decorator, let's log something. An print session object. And once it's here, we'll also print session object. Let's signify that it came under here. Okay. Our session is empty and it never went inside this decorator. Why did it not go inside? Is this thing not working? Let's do one thing. Let's copy paste this over here and check what happens. We'll import wraps. All right. Refresh. Slash user slash admin. Still, it is not. Why is it not going to the decorator? Login required missing. I'm doing it in the wrong place. Okay, alright, my blunder. I was doing it in the wrong place. Should work, please work. Yes, you don't have authorization to view this page. Okay, well, nice. My app was not started. I made a blunder again, yet again. Where is my app0.py? Here, let's make 7,000. Go to the URL. Okay, here we are. slash user slash admin. Okay, now this works. It says you must be logged in to view this page. And we might have a session printed. Inside decorator, it says empty dictionary. Perfect. We can delete the decorator from here. From dot decorator, import open required. Okay, let's check it out again. If we want to go to slash user slash hacker, and it says you must be logged in to view this page. What if I log in as hacker and instead of password I drop in my SQL injection? What did it do? It says you must be logged in to view this page. What did it do differently? Inside decorator null session. Alright, so we fixed that. Now I have an entire article around this. It's not on Medium, it's here. Here. I wrote an entire article around this and it contains similar Flask examples. Okay, and we are adding vulnerabilities here. There are three types of vulnerabilities you can kind of go through. All right, and you can even try this code, it works very well. And yeah, I'll drop the link to this as well. Here, this same thing I've given. See, name equals to hacker, it will log you in. If you want somebody's secret, it will log you in. See, what we did was we just passed hacker and person.secret. It logged me in. See, and it is showing me the secret. How we get rid of this is we use template strings. And when we do person.secret now, we don't get any information out of it, right? So this is how you implement security. Very small things, but they do matter when you're kind of trying to run a project. All right. Once this is done and we are set up, we are creating sessions. Now see, here we have a session. What the username is. All right. Where were we? I was here, and then all right. Okay. So now, how do we get rid of this thing? We are directly using SQL queries. Suppose we bypass this attack. There can be numerous other attacks that can be possible in this password field that is directly going into the execute command of our database, right? It's literally directly executing. There is absolutely no checking over here that we're doing. What can we do at our best is in the db.py file. Let's create a wrapper around our database. We create a class. This is where Python's object-oriented nature comes in picture. We create a class called db. We do the URI, connection cursor, and then we initiate. When we initiate the database, we establish a connection and create a cursor, and we create our primary table, right? And we create a temporary user. All right. So all of this inside the init. Can we exchange this? If we comment this out and instead of this, we take from db, import db. And now what we do is we set our database. Once we do db like we create an object of this, all of this will get initialized, right? This init function will run, we'll have a connection, a cursor, and we'll have a temporary user in the database. When you want to delete the DB, we can simply do it by deleting the object. And now when we need to check a query, we need to call this function. It will have the query and it will have the session. So what does it say? If the query contains drop, the words drop, delete, insert, update, which is what we don't want to give our users the access to. No normal user should have access to running such commands in the database query. Now, either the user, if the user has, okay, if the user has all these words in the query, or the user does not have the word select, or the session role is not admin. So anybody apart from admin cannot use these four keywords to execute query. What do? We return invalid query. Otherwise, what we do is we match our rejects. Why do we match rejects? So that nobody plays around with this kind of password with us, right? So our query should not evaluate into something like this. Okay, we don't want certain things with this. Now again, you can kind of modify this regex to better suit your requirements, and in most cases, yep. And then we do cursor.execute and fetch all, and we return this. This is how we kind of create a wrapper over our database, which is what I meant when I was talking about yeah, this. So this data access layer is basically this wrapper that we have created. Now our backend index.html is our front end, right? This is interacting with backend via Flask. Our backend, instead of directly doing this, what we can do is we could say user equals to db dot, what was the function, query, and in the query we can pass, where did our db go? Here. In the query we can pass our query and our session object. From session object, what we'll do is we'll extract the user role. Okay, let's set the session role first. db.query speak. This should work, right? So we pasted our query here and passed our session object, and when we try to log in, this should run. Okay, as our db, is it connected? Is it connected? Yes. Let's clear out temp.db and save this file and run it. Okay, no such file path to database.db. What did I do? Oh, all right. I don't want this. Yep, active. Let's go back to the URL and try logging in to see does our new wrapper work. We go to admin and we go to password. It does not log you in. Why? Inside decorator we have a null session. Oh, we have a null session. That's because I passed this in. And that is my session object. No, right? Hmm. Why do I get stuck with this thing always? No way. And this. We should have arts. No, let's take it in keyword arts. And let's pass this session. Yep, works. Logging in again. Okay, we messed up something. Session equals to. Alright. It should not happen. Section dot. Sorry, section. Logged in true. And let's also define it here. Okay, please work. We're passing something very long and very bad. I did make a blunder somewhere. Inside decorative is still getting null session. Why is that? Okay, I have to do this. Key error session. Our keyword arguments are not picking up session, but it should be passed in. You don't expect somebody like me to get stuck on this. URL for takes one positional argument, but two were given. Oh my god. Username. Work for God's sake. It says it cannot find a keyword argument call session. Why can it not find? And again, we're getting three or four. Does anybody have any idea to get out of this? You didn't import the decorator, and the decorator is not being initialized. Now it is. Hmm. I am not sure how to make this run. That was old messages. Okay, all right. Why did we go wrong? Okay, I'll just end this right now. Okay, that. Okay, I've pushed this code. If anyone of you sees a problem here, because I'm missing out on something very basic and I cannot remember at all what it is, just let me know. And yeah, I'll present my screen back to the slides again. Let's come back to this when I think I got it. All right. So here we were building the data access layer and trying to interact with the DB indirectly, right? Oh, we were here. So we saw SQL injection attacks against data corruption. Yeah, data corruption also. Like we can just enter the name of the hacker there, okay, and it will take us directly to that route. No validation, no authentication, no authorization. We can access pages just like that. And similarly, directory traversal attacks. If you have some file in the root of your application, then the user can, the hacker can directly go to that file's URL and access it, right? This is what happens when you try to access robots.txt, or in my case, there's this file called myfile.txt, and you can access this via your Flash server that you are running. All right, then let's move forward to auditing and logging. How else do you, you've set up all of these things, you've set up validation, you've done your sanity, you're pretty sure that on your backend code, on your data access layer code, there can be no breaches. But what if there is? What if, some loophole is left? What if somebody finds that out? How will you get to know about that in time? That's through auditing and logging. How you need to identify security breaches. So, and you also need to investigate unauthorized access. If I am a user A and I am able to log into user B, you as the service owner should be able to recognize that I am not user B and this is not my place to log in. Okay, I am unauthorized over here, but I can still access this portion of the application. So as a server owner, you are responsible for checking that as well. How do we achieve that? We achieve that by monitoring and analyzing logs to detect and respond to security incidents. So while doing continuous monitoring, like in your logs you can add admin logged in, or xyz logged in, or session created by this username, right? So if the session created by this username and the username that you were expecting are not the same, or say their JWT tokens are not the same, you can log that incident. You can monitor all those calls, and you can kind of, um, just keep a track of what is happening on your database level. And once these log reports are sent to you, you can definitely identify where data breach happened, if it happened at all, right? All right. Looks like this is the last slide for today. No, this is the second last slide for today. Let's revisit what we saw. We saw regularly updating software and applying patches. We did not see this actually, but if this blog that I dropped here, I, damn it, why do I forget to share my screen? If this blog that I dropped here, if you go on this and where is my blog gone? Yeah. So in this blog over here, if you check out, you can see that there's a vulnerability in the code just because of a simple jQuery package not being updated, right? And if the jQuery, if you're using external third-party packages and those packages have vulnerabilities in them, then a person knowing that, okay, your software is using such a package and I can get in through this package into your code, that just kind of gives it a vulnerability in your code as well. So if you're not updating your packages, you kind of staying behind in the game anyway. Then, so how do you update software and apply patches regularly? One thing is, obviously in Python, it's very simple. You use your package managers like Poetry, PyEnv, pipenv, Conda, Miniconda, or venv. Okay, there are so many. And then you can set up cron jobs to kind of regularly check if a particular update is available or not, if it's a breaking change or not. And then you can update your project requirements accordingly, right? Then you should implement strong authentication. Your passwords should be not stored as plain text. That's very obvious by now. You should never store them as just plain text, that if somebody gets access to your database, they can see what the password is. They should always be encrypted. And yeah, and you should also implement strong access controls. So if admin is admin, then they need to be like that. If moderator has certain permissions, they can only access that. And if a normal user has certain restrictions, they cannot go beyond that. So yesterday we talked about something as minimal privilege level. So the minimal amount of privilege that you can give to this user for them to complete their task is what we mean by implementing strong access controls, right? Then protecting against SQL injection attacks or similar corruption attacks that could breach in your data. Then encrypt sensitive data, suppose like again passwords or date of births or phone numbers and stuff like that. So even if your database gets corrupted, that data is not actually usable by somebody who tried to corrupt it. And last is regularly perform database backups. So even if one of your database clusters is maliciously attacked, what you can do is you can delete that cluster and still have your original data secure. And almost all of these problems are kind of sorted out by ORMs, or what we know as object relational mapping softwares or libraries. That includes your PsychoPG for Postgres, your SQL Alchemy for SQL databases. Then we have PyMongo for PyMongo. Then I think Mongo.js and all of these things in various languages. You have various ORMs. Again, Firebase itself provides you a Python library. Okay, so all of these ORMs take care of all of these things that I just mentioned. They take care of whether your queries are running correctly or not, because you're not allowed to run direct queries over there. They take care of the passwords are being encrypted or not, the user IDs are stored in objects or not. Okay, so all of those things are handled automatically by our ORMs. That's why they're suggested to use. Next, how Python and its ecosystem can be utilized to implement effective security measures. So we talked about all of these here, and just a quick recap. One is just use frameworks like Django or Flask, which are not only mature enough, but they also come in with so many plugins. And Django itself has their inbuilt modules or features to protect against XSS attacks or SQL injections, or they have their request library, which kind of validates and sanitizes your input or validates the kind of request the user is sending. Then Flask also has a variety of plugins that you can use with it, right? Apart from this, this happens on the surface level. Apart from that, there's a lot of cryptography libraries written in Python, which you can use to say explicitly encrypt data that you want to store on your server, right? Then apart from that, obviously we need to make sure that whatever we are writing in the code, that code itself is not vulnerable. Suppose you're writing secrets in your code, that's not the way to kind of build a project. We all know how do we keep secrets in the Python code. We put a .env file in our folder, okay, and that .env file is accessed, or we store our secrets in our environment variables, okay, or pipeline variables, wherever we want to, which is not accessible inside the code. Inside the code we just access them through a say we access them through a call, okay, a system call or a file call. So reading the file contents, reading variable contents. Then there are libraries such as Bandit. I will quickly look it up. This library is currently used by my organization as well to detect security measures in. Yeah. Here is the, you can do pip install Bandit, and it will scan your repository or your project for any vulnerabilities that you might have, anything that you might be doing wrong which missed your eye. It'll do a full scan. And okay, drop the link, pinned it over here. All right, then. Yeah, I mean, these are the ways you can use Python to its full capability to make sure that your application that you're making are not vulnerable. And that brings us to the end of the session. All right, I pushed my changes to GitHub, and I will drop all of these links on Discord right now so you can access them. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please drop in the chat. Let's wait for a couple of minutes while I drop in all the links on Discord. Here is security week. All right. Then we had reverse engine, I think. Then we have bandit. Cool. I posted these in the GHW chat, the security week chat, and yeah, looks like we do not have any questions today. Thank you for the people who joined in. I understand it's kind of early at most places, and let's meet tomorrow. Tomorrow my session is at 2:30 IST, which means I need to check in the ET time. But you can find the schedule at ghw.io/schedule. And let's see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And let's meet tomorrow for network security. Bye bye.